Welcome back, students. Myself Vishal Pandey, and I welcome you all in my online class. Basically, what we are starting today is very interesting as far as your SST portion of history is concerned, because today we are starting Chartered Act of 1813. Basically, all the way it came from England, and why it is important, because this is nothing new for you all. We had already discussed two of the important acts, which the first one was Regulating Act of 1773 and the second one was Pitt's India Act of 1784. Now, because of these two acts, the Chartered Act came into existence in the year 1813. So we will be discussing about this Chartered Act in detail. Let us have the next slide to understand it more clearly. As far as this act is concerned, children, Chartered Act covered these points in a detailed way. These points have been already discussed by you all, with you all, in Regulating and then Pitt's India Act. But we have to cover this in Monopoly of Trade. We have to cover control of company as well. We have to look upon then administration. We have to see that how administration was working, then central legislature, provincial legislature, and then finally revenue. We have to cover about this topic, this Chartered Act. As you can see on the screen, in the year 1600, Queen Elizabeth, she is the Queen Elizabeth, and she granted a monopoly to trade British East India Company. In the year 1600, what it means, that in the beginning of, or you can say in the end of 16th century and the beginning of 17th century, they started, Britishers basically, they were granted the monopoly to trade by Queen Elizabeth herself. Let us see what happens next. So, two important trade, that was the tea trade and the tea trade with China itself. These trades, that is the tea trade, was the exceptional one because it was not involved anymore in the monopoly to trade. However, you understand that the monopoly of trade was given by Britishers, especially the Englishmen, by Queen Elizabeth, and then because of Chartered Act of 1813, the monopoly was taken back from England and it was distributed among all the European countries, but the tea monopoly remained same, and Englishmen were responsible for the trade of tea. They used to export it into the China or in China country. So basically this had taken place. If we talk about the monopoly, that what is the monopoly, what is the literal meaning of monopoly, it is associated with rights of a human being, rights of an institution, rights of a country, etc. and etc. So if we talk about monopoly, हिंदी में हम इसको अधिकार कह सकते हैं, but rather than, you have to understand that why Britishers lose that monopoly of 200 years. Basically 200 years से वो मोनोपोली उनकी चली आ रही है, and why they dropped it. There should be certain reasons. Yes, there are certain reasons. Let us understand that, those reasons why they dropped the monopoly of trade. I had told you in the virtual classes, if you remember, in the year 1740 itself, industrialization starts in England, or you can say in Europe. Industrialization came into existence, and that moment was very important. In the year 1740, the European countries were having some factories which are setting up, which were set up in the year 1740, and not only in 1740 but after that 1740, in 50s and 60s, European countries were having very important and the initiation were taken by the merchants guilds. Restrictions were there, but ultimately guilds and merchants started setting up the factories. So altogether industrialization was taking place in England. How it is important, let us understand that as well. By 1812, you can clearly see on the screen, by 1812 Britain was a leading industrial nation. So you can imagine by yourself that industrialization started in 1740, but Chartered Act came in India in the year 1813. Almost 73 years it took. But finally, if you talk about 1812, this was the year when Britishers were at their pinnacle and they were the leading industrial nation in England. So what had happened, children? When Britishers were leading, because they were having the monopoly to trade in Middle East Asia, European countries like France, Germany, Italy, Spain, so on and so forth, they were also demanding from the British Empire, from King and Queen of England, that they also need some facilities, some advantages of trade. They also want to trade with Middle East Asia and all. So that was the reason why Chartered Act came in existence in the year 1813. Let us have some more explanation regarding Charter Act. Now you can see, first of all, in Britain, especially in England, factories were growing, and this is the map of European continent. You can see, except if you talk about England was involved, Britain was involved in industrialization, but at the same time you can see the other European countries, they also started trading, they also started factory were setting up, they also started putting up the factories. So what happened, if they are manufacturing the products, they need to sell it at the same time, so they need market. So however, this was going on, but at the same time, what you have to keep in your mind, this is the portrait of Napoleon Bonaparte. He was also cynosure, center of attraction, because in the year 1799 he came in France and he took the monopoly, he attacked it, and he became the king of France. That was Napoleon Bonaparte, and he started capturing all the countries. So ultimately his pressure was also there. So Britain, it means England, was bound to give the power to different European countries to trade in Middle East Asia. Let us see what happens next. So what Napoleon did, he had a slogan, do not trade with Britain. He was telling all the European countries that don't trade with Britain, rather than trade with us, these countries like France, Germany, Italy and all. We will only trade with Britain if Britain will give us the permission to trade in East Asia, Middle East Asia. That is, Britain has to take the monopoly back and give us the monopoly, so that we can also go to India and sell our products, because industrialization has taken place in our country as well. So this was the this Britain was lacking, Britain became an individual nation. ये अलग थलग हो गया, because other European countries were merged, other European countries were having their supports of one another, but Britain was all alone, and this was the pathway through which Britain was not allowing them to come and subjugate the trade and enjoy the trading system altogether. So Napoleon tried it very well, and what happened, this restriction of not coming and not being one was taken away और ये जो दूरी थी इन दोनों के बीच में, यूरोपियन कंट्रीज़ एंड ब्रिटेन के बीच में, इसको हटा दिया गया और ये फिर से एक हुए एंड दैट मोनोपोली was given to all the countries of European, and then the restrictions were taken away and the merchants approached British government for help. These merchants, the guilds, merchants, vyapari, businessmen, they approached British government as well as the British Empire, as I told you earlier, to sanction them, to give them permission of trade. So they got the permission. The Britishers said, okay, we are giving you the permission to trade, and then Britain as well as the European countries, different European countries like France, Germany, Dutch, that is from Portuguese and all, they started coming to India. Now they reached India and Indian merchants were lacking behind now, because Indian merchants were not able to sell their products in the market, because जो मार्केट मैनचेस्टर से बनकर आता था वो बहुत ही अच्छा फिनिशिंग उसकी होती थी, बहुत ही अच्छा लगता था लोगों को, और इंडियन गुड्स को लोग खरीदना पसंद नहीं करते थे. सो दिस वाज आल्सो अ रीज़न, एंड पीपल यूज्ड टू बाय द प्रोडक्ट्स ऑफ मैनचेस्टर, ब्रिटेन, फ्रांस एंड जर्मनी एंड ऑल. सो व्हाट हैपेंड देन? ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी एग्रीड टू हैव मोनोपोली इन ओनली टी ट्रेड. सो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने सारे मोनोपोली जो है वो हटा दिए, सारे राइट्स हटा दिए. नाउ ईच एंड एवरी कंट्री कैन ट्रेड इन इंडिया बट एक्सेप्ट टी. So keep this in your mind. It can be asked in your examination that which was the trade which was only allowed to do done by the Britishers. If you talk about the Chartered Act, due to Chartered Act, what had happened? Indian industries were badly impacted. Indian industries were badly impacted. Indian merchants were badly impacted. Indian workers were badly impacted. Why? Because large number of products started coming to India from England, from France, from different European countries. These products were of high qualities. इनकी qualities बहुत अच्छी होती थी and Indian industries could not compete with them. तो Indian industry में जो चीज़ें बनती थी वो उतने अच्छी नहीं बनती थी जितनी अच्छी इनकी फिनिशिंग होती थी. तो that was the competition which has taken place between European countries and Indian industries as well. So what happened then? ब्रिटेन से जो सामान आते थे, जो गुड्स आते थे वो अच्छे रेट में बिक जाते थे, बट इंडियन वर्कर्स एंड इंडियन फैमिली, इंडियन इंडस्ट्रीज वर स्टार्टेड कोलैप्स. सो ये कोलैप्स्ड होना स्टार्ट हुआ, ख़त्म होना स्टार्ट हुआ. देन इफ़ यू टॉक अबाउट द कंट्रोल ऑफ कंपनी, इट रिमेन्स सेम. कमर्शियल एंड पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज वर सेम एज इट वॉज डिस्कस्ड इन द पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट. Court of directors were 24 in numbers and the board of control 6 in numbers. This is very easy for you to understand because this is not new for you anymore. If you talk about administration, children, Bengal presidency, and it all remains the same as it was there in Pitt's India Act. So no need to, if you have any doubt, if there is any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. Ask me the question and try to understand this all perception, this all topic as far as Chartered Act is concerned of administration. So if you have any question, you can ask me and you can have all the discussion with me. So enough for today. Next I will be discussing about the provincial legislature and the central legislature, then revenue. So watch this video as many times as you can. It is very helpful, very beneficial for you all. Okay, so take care. Bye bye. Thank you.